Deep down, the idea of photographing interiors was an act of despair. At the time, I was living in a small apartment, and I just started taking pictures of the bathroom, the bedroom, the kitchen. It just grew from there. I started taking pictures in the houses of my uncles and aunts and friends' parents. I called the series interiors because I didn't want to call them apartment photos, bedroom photos, or bathroom photos, and so on. I was looking for a word which I couldn't find in German to express a general concept. In fact, I'm not even sure that interior is the right term. I like the word because interior means inside, within anything. On these two contacts, it's the same corner of a room that we see, but the camera angle and framing are different. Here, it's too cluttered. Part of the window is hazy with light. I'd say badly lit, quite simply. It's showing too many things, and it gives an impression of confusion. I removed one of the three cushions and tried to compose a calmer background. I made the picture more peaceful. With the interior series, I was convinced that photography reproduced reality. I photographed the scene as I found it. As well as the interiors, I wanted to photograph the facades of the houses, the exteriors. With a simple foreground, preferably featureless than the facade itself. And nothing, if possible, between the foreground and the facade. No hedges, no trees, or anything that got in the way. All that against a neutral sky. In this example of the house photographed head-on, there was a tree in front of the window, and a road sign next to the house. One of the skylights was half open. All that disturbed the symmetry of the image. And so I decided for the first time to touch up one of my photos on a computer. I got rid of the tree, made the road sign vanish, and I also retouched the skylight. As a result, I obtained a clear, symmetrical image. I noticed that these photos didn't necessarily replicate reality, but there was a kind of arranged reality, a different reality in the image. To tell the truth, I was more captivated by the image than the reality. The formats of my photographs always depend on the subject, whereas the format of the negatives follows commercial norms. When the size of the negative doesn't suit the subject, I alter the framing to change the dimensions. I always adapt the framing to the subject of my photos. These nocturnal photos were taken with a night sight, which enables you to see even if there are only stars in the sky and it is virtually pitch black. When I look through the night sight, at first all I see is a green image. Then I can make out a house, a window, a lamppost, or a path. But I interpret the image I see because I have the inkling of the shape of a house, which allows me to suppose that the green image that I am seeing is a house. Normally, when night falls, you can't see anything outdoors, but when you look in a window with the light on, you can see everything going on inside. Here, it's exactly the opposite. There's so much light coming from the window that the film is burned almost. It is flooded with white. You're left to imagine what is happening on the other side of the window. It makes the picture very mysterious. I saw green images like these for the first time on TV during the Gulf War. There was a tank crossing the desert and a soldier finding his way using a night sight. For me, these green images symbolized Western voyeurism in relation to wars and disasters. So I went out and declared Düsseldorf a war zone. I walked around the town with my night sight because I wanted to know what a major European city looked like in this green light. In the 1980s, I began my portraits. There was still the hangover of 70s minimalist art, but portraiture had completely disappeared from the canons of contemporary art. To tell the truth, I wanted to shoot portraits in the neutral and uncluttered style of my interior series. I worked on the principle that a photo cannot reveal anything about the sitter's personality, that the photo merely reproduces the surface of things and is unable to capture the content. The sessions lasted barely 5 minutes. Most often they would take place in the afternoon because the morning is no good for portraiture. The person sits on a chair facing the camera. I move behind the camera, under the black hood, and I set everything up technically. Then we begin. Generally, people look straight at the camera. I barely alter their position. I might say to them, chin up slightly, lower, look a fraction left, a fraction right. Then I begin shooting. I ask them to look at me with a lot of self-confidence. Generally, for the first 5 shots, I barely need to have film in the camera because the person is still, if not nervous, unfocused at least. As soon as the flash goes off, the situation changes. I get the shot in one of the next series of 5. In the end, I'd say that my photographs have relatively little to do with the person being photographed. I'd say that it is very difficult to interpret my portraits. How old is the person? What job do they do? Who's their mother? Who's their father? How many brothers and sisters do they have? It's totally absurd to ask a photograph to provide all that information. I refuse to make it a sociological exercise, to analyze personalities, or to use a style that gives clues to people's personalities. The truth is that I merely captured the person's appearance. What I call other portraits show how various types of manipulation are the order of the day. I got the idea for this series, Other Portraits, quite early on, around 1992, I think. Back then, I didn't know how to do them. I had in mind a kind of identikit picture, a sort of non-portrait, but didn't know how to go about it. Over time, I learned how to manufacture the right kind of image. I unearthed the 1970s Minolta unit that was used to make identikit pictures. I noticed that with the apparatus, it was preferable to superpose no more than two faces. Otherwise, the image loses its definition and is blurred. You can hardly make out anything. But I can't tell beforehand if I've got it right. It's just trial and error. All the information that we receive, or all the images we see, are prefabricated images transmitted in part by machines, produced by machines, or by men at the service of specific opinions or ideologies. Everyone feels they can understand a photograph and are able to judge it. Walter Benjamin said, "Those who fail to learn to decipher photographs will be the illiterate of the future." People no longer know how to differentiate between what is true and false. They take pictures at face value and don't ask any questions. They allow themselves to be led by the nose.